Welcome everyone to the Medspa Accelerator Podcast, brought to you by Everwell Marketing, the go-to resource so you can get the latest hacks and best practices to market and grow a profitable medical aesthetics practice. My name is Maripili and I am obsessed with all things business, marketing, operations, numbers, and helping you grow and take your med spa to the next level. This is the Medspa Accelerator Podcast, Season 2.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Glad to be back. Another episode.
And I'm actually really excited about this one because it's something that I feel it happens often.
Yeah, I mean, I think as part of like being entrepreneurs and business owners and stuff, like we kind of put this by the wayside a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Which is, your mindset, right? And
yes.
Yeah.
And it's just so important. And in this specific episode, we want to talk about the mindset that you need for growth, especially when you're overwhelmed.
Yeah. And I even in like with our sales team, like when we're talking about like the kind of people that are our ideal clients, it's like we always say, like we're looking for that person that has a growth oriented mindset.
Yes.
Right? Because like, a lot of the times you kind of come across these scenarios where maybe you're just not ready for growth, right? Or like, I was actually talking to a friend of mine who works with people in a similar industry, and they started working together. Things got a little overwhelming because obviously now it's like more work to be done. Mm-hmm. And she was, the client was like, literally she said, "Oh, I'm just really overwhelmed. Let's just stop doing what we're doing." And I was like, yeah, man, I feel you, it happens all the time. And so I feel like a lot of times, like, it's just overwhelm is like a symptom, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like trying to figure out like, okay, what is causing this overwhelm and what are some ways that I can combat it to still have the growth that I want? Because we all, for the most part, want growth, right? If you're listening to this podcast, you want growth.
Yes, exactly. And it is hard because when you are overwhelmed, there are like, you feel like there's just so many things going on in your business at the same time. And you want to have that, like, you want to make sure that it keeps growing, but you just feel like you can't. Because in order for it to grow, it needs it needs your time. And there's just so many other things. Maybe you are still part of your business. You're actually like, in it and working in it constantly, and you can't like get out of it to really work on it.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, I mean, and we get it. Like we've all been there. I feel like, especially at the beginning stages where you are doing a lot of things and you're wearing all these multiple hats and you're trying to be accounting and you're trying to actually perform the business and you're doing sales and you want to make sure that all these things are being taken care of. How do you set your mindset to like, what can I do now for growth?
For sure. Yeah. And so today what we're going to be talking about is just kind of like, what are some of the ways that you can think about and then go about, dealing with this growth, dealing with the overwhelm so that you can actually get to that next level in your business. Right. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like one of the first things that you need to do in order to get your mindset going is, okay, when am I working on it and when am I working in it?
Yeah.
And once you kind of like see that difference, then the next thing is making space for actually working on it.
Yeah. And so actually I heard an interesting concept, I guess. I can't recall where I saw it. I don't know if I saw it on like a YouTube video or I saw it on some like reel or something like that. But like, overwhelm, and then like obviously a part of a feeling of that's attached to overwhelm is like stress, right? And so stress, the gentleman was saying that like stress is attached, or you have stress, you're stressed because you should be doing something and you can do it, but for some reason you're choosing not to. Right. Yeah. And so stress comes from this idea. And so a lot of the times when you actually take action to like even the simplest action towards whatever is stressing you out, a lot of times immediately that stress goes away. And so, it's an interesting thing. And I feel like overwhelm a lot of the times is like it's kind of like the same thing with overwhelm because, overwhelm comes from like a lot of the time because there's this misalignment between your current reality and what you want your reality to be, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then a lot of it too is like I know I should be doing some of these things, but I don't know what I should be doing first. Like, you know, like you don't know how to prioritize. You don't know, you know, what are some of the things that should come first. And so, you know, I think part of it is just like getting organized with what those things are. And I think even a lot of times, even for me, just being able to write these things down on paper and like put them out, get them out of my head, put them on paper, a lot of the time just gives me a lot more clarity. And then I do have alignment. And then I can clearly see, oh yeah, well, you know, it's quite obvious that I need to do this first, this second, this third, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then go about it that way.
Yeah, because and then what happens too, I feel, is like, okay, maybe you're writing everything down, but how can you choose what's priority? And I feel like the only way of really knowing what's priority to you, it's what's your end goal. If you, because sometimes like we have all these million little things that need to get done, and maybe like it's something that you do need to do now because, you know, a client is waiting for you, or, you know, it's gonna fix a problem now. But if your end goal is growth, then that priority changes, because what, from everything that you wrote down, what is really moving you forward to that goal?
Yeah, and so this is definitely interesting. And I mean, obviously, there's a lot of ways that you can go about it. This is what has served us, right? Yes. And so we can only talk to you about the experience that we've had. You know, we've been entrepreneurs for almost a decade now. Like, at the end of the day, this is coming from our experiences. And so I think... And
what we've learned along the way.
And what we learn along the way, 100%. And so I think when it comes to, first of all, like really getting an understanding of like, what is it that you want? What is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? And in most cases, then that's you're trying to grow, right?
Yes.
And so I feel like depending on where you're at, obviously in your business, there's certain things that you will have to do to that will get you that growth that you want. The way that I like to look at it, and I've kind of listened to a lot of people about this, is in regards to like removing constraints in your business, right? And so I think...
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah. And so I think one of the biggest things when it comes to growing is that you have to kind of have this mindset of, I'm going to do whatever it takes to grow my business, right? And so what is growing your business at this particular point in time is like, I need more patience, and I'm going to do whatever output that I can do so that I can get the input that I want, in this case, patience, right? And so for me and for most businesses is that you're going to have to, you know, the goal should be setting appointments, or like getting appointments, and then getting people to say yes to treatment. Like, that's it, right?
Yeah.
And so
it's the number one thing that's going to make your business grow.
And I think, you know, there's been times in our business where we've kind of, you know, taken our foot off the pedal on sales and marketing and advertising. And for the reason, I mean, there were valid reasons.
To work on operations.
Yeah, to work on operations, work on, you know, delivery, et cetera. But I think we kind of got to a point where like we overextended that, right? And we just lost focus, and we didn't focus on sales particularly, that at the end of the day, in the long run, it kind of cost us, you know, it made us be in an uncomfortable situation, right? That we had to like course correct.
Growth. Yeah. Like there was no growth. Yes, maybe like internally, a lot of the things were doing really well, but there was no growth in the business, and we didn't hit the goals that we wanted to hit. Yeah. It almost seemed like we were on pause for a while.
Yeah, for sure. And so, you know, the mentality should be like, if you're trying to grow, then that means that there's other things in your business that you kind of have to like not ignore, but it's like, okay, I'm going to put this on the back burner, right? Like I'm going to document everything that needs to be addressed for sure. Yeah. And I'm going to put this on this column of like, I'm going to get to this later, right?
That's for my future self to worry about.
And it's really just because like we have a limited capacity, right? Especially if you're one person, you know, you don't really have like other business partners or different things like that. You're working in the business, you're working on the business. And so at the end of the day, like you do have to look at it this way, because obviously you probably also have a family. You probably also, you know, have other things that you want to do. And so you don't have the time for everything. And so you have to be very selective. Part of a lot of the things that comes when it comes to growth, like you have to look at what are some of the things that I can remove.
Yes.
Right. And so you're removing these constraints to then give you the capacity that you need to grow. So go ahead.
I was going to say, like it takes you back to like the mindset. So, and it's really hard to do. Like this concept of like, what can I do less of so I can have more time to do more of these things that are really going to move me towards that goal.
Yeah. And so I think, one of the easiest things to kind of look at is like that if you're spending the majority of your time working in your business instead of working on it, then you're obviously not focused on growth. Like you just don't have the mental capacity, right, to be dedicating any time to that, because at the end of the day, you're just exhausted, Yeah. And so part of it like is freeing up more of your mental space and then also your time, right? Like so that you can actually dedicate more time to your business, actually growing your business, right? And so I think one of the biggest, one of the easiest things that you can do in your business to free up more of your time is going to be look at what your worst times are.
Yes.
And then close off those hours.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Like instead of, being open 9 to 5, it's like on a Monday, you already know that 9, like nobody likes to come in Monday morning, right? Or you only have one person come in. Well, hey, you know what? I think I'm just going to close off the office that day.
And it might sound counterproductive, but it's not. You're freeing up your mind, which is honestly at the end of the day like a treasure to your business, to really work on the things that are going to move you forward. Yeah.
And it's interesting because even just that in itself, you're technically making yourself more profitable, like making your business more profitable, because you're dedicating less time to this section of time that is not efficient for you. And you're moving those people to these other slots, right? And so in itself, because you are dedicating less time and less resources, you have less expenses, and your revenue stays the same, but your profit actually increases just because of that time that you were able to close those hours. And a lot of people might think, well, I'll still be open, and but I'll dedicate that time to working on the business. I mean, everybody, you can try it for sure. But in my experience, it's that like, if it's open, then it has staff there. If it have staff there, then like they have questions, they're a distraction, or they can be a distraction. Or you can say like, hey, I'm still going to show up to the office, but I'm going to work on the business. And if you have other people that are more like your executive team or your admin team, people that actually can help you on the business, then you can have those people on there and work as a team. But I think just in itself, like if you can identify which days and then which times within that day you're not really producing revenue, then I encourage you to just close those times off and dedicate that time to actually working in the business.
Yeah. And you have to like also think about anything else that you can like lessen your burden, right? And so I know like some of the things that we do is like we're all people at the end of the day. We all have like car payments and like all these little extra things, mortgage and like family things, and like getting like somebody to cut the grass and like getting whatever things going on for your home. So making sure that like you have as many things out of your mind, putting them either on paper or something automatic, or if like somebody else can take care of them, then it kind of just opens up your mind and your space to really think clearly about the things. And again, going back to what is my main goal here, so that way you can set up your priorities, because we all have the same hours in the day, right? And I love that ones like we all have the same hours as Beyonce, and see where Beyonce is, like so you just want to make sure that you know that you can do this. It's just that if you are always working on on the fires that are on the daily basis, it's just really hard to do. So lessen all the noise around you, so you can do more of the business.
100%. And so I feel like there's like these phases that you go through these business. Like the first phase is like, I'm trying to grow the business, so I want to get as many appointments as possible, and I want to get as many people, like many of those people saying yes to treatment and onboarding them into my practice, right? And so that's number one. You want to do that as much as possible. You want to obviously like like there's things that maybe might go wrong, because every time you increase volume, there's like service typically tends to kind of decrease, right? And so then don't feel bad, like right?
Being okay with chaos.
Yeah, you have to be okay with that. There will be some things that go wrong, right? But this is what we call stress testing, right? And so every business needs to stress test. And I'm actually part of a group of gentlemen that are all entrepreneurs. And that was actually an interesting conversation with one of them, because one of them wanted to go on a vacation, but he was worried that if he went on vacation, everything was gonna just go down the drain. Yeah, right. Like he was gonna come back, he wasn't gonna have a business anymore. And
we've all been there.
Yeah, right. And so, but the interesting thing is that, look, like you built your business because it was a means to an end and you wanted to have freedom. And it's kind of like you're building this car, right? You're building this vehicle. And so you don't just build something to just, like, let's say in this case, a car, to just keep it in the garage. Like you don't build a Ferrari so that you can just not ride it. You know what I mean? Like not drive, like get in the car, turn on that engine and just take it for a ride. Right. And so he was trying to compare this vehicle to his business. Like at the end of the day, let's test it. Let's see if this car can turn on and like a Tesla drive itself. Right. And so otherwise then what are you doing? Right. Yeah. And so, and part of letting it go for a drive, right, or taking it out for a drive is that, like, at the end of the day, like you can go do whatever it is you want to do. You can go spend time with your family, do whatever it is that you want to do. It makes you happy. And your car, your business is still there generating revenue for you, but you'll never know if it can run itself if you don't give it the opportunity to. Yeah.
That's
and
huge.
so I really actually like that. And because you have to stress test your business, and it's not until you have let it go through these stress tests that you're gonna identify what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
And look, like that might, I feel like a lot of times, like, we want our businesses to be perfect, but the reality is that they will never be. And like businesses is all about solving problems. And like when you fix one thing, another thing will be broken, and then you have to fix that, and then another thing will be another problem arises. And like this is how businesses are, right? If you start getting a lot of patients, then what's going to happen? You're going to probably reach your capacity. Well, then that's another problem that needs to be solved, right? So then you fix your capacity, and then but now I need more. I don't have enough people. So you build more rooms. That's great. But now I need people to service these rooms. Yeah. And then these people are not trained. They're new. So that, and
you
then
need to onboard them. Yeah. And then the onboarding process doesn't work. So you need to fix that.
And now I have more people. So I need to get more patients to pay these people. Right. So it's this reoccurring thing that just happens all the time. And you have to be okay with that. Right.
That's part of it. That's the beauty of it.
And that's the fun part, I would say. Right.
Yeah.
It's
there's always something that you can be working on in your business.
Definitely. And so I guess the way that I like to look at it is that, like, look, if I'm focused on growth, then I'm going to purely focus on growth, right? Once I hit that goal that I want, or like I hit capacity, well, then my mental, energy, right, needs to shift. And now I'm going to look at solving this other problem of capacity, right? Okay, I need to build more rooms, right? I need to buy more equipment. And the nice thing is that you'll be able to make those investments because you focus on having the growth. Now you have the cash flow, you have the patients that are coming in that are paying for that. And that's obviously really great. We just had a client that, started doing really well. He's now going to buy another practice with, just cash, like in
That's
cash.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so he's solving his problems of capacity and growth, he's going to buy this other practice, and that's great. But before he bought another practice, he had to build 2 extra rooms. Right. And so he had to buy all this equipment and stuff. So then he bought the equipment. Okay. So now what happens after that? Like now you solve that problem. That's great. Now you move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Which is like people, right? Like staffing, right?
Yeah. And I think part of it is compartmentalizing, right? Like what can you do now for the growth, and understanding, like you said, like documenting, okay, what after this stress test, what do I need to focus on next? So I know, like for me personally, like because I am so operationally minded and I want to give always the best service, like it's kind of hard to kind of put myself out of that box and into maybe the sales, right? Because of course we need sales to keep growing, but I want to make sure that my service is always on point. So for me personally, knowing that I have an operations manager that is on top of her game and making sure that with the clients that we have the best service, I can actually focus on the growth.
Yeah.
So if you're in that same spot, that would be my recommendation to you. Find somebody like your not only office manager, but somebody that actually understands operations, understands how to put out those fires so that you can focus on this other growth. It, for me, was a game changer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think for everybody, I mean, for, you know, me, myself, like including myself, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's huge. And so, I mean, there's three different, I feel like there's different mindsets that you need to have depending on like what phase you're in within your business, right?
Yes.
And so it's kind of interesting. There's like a few already, like, you know, I think things that are said where it's like, oh, the 3 Ps or the 3 S's, right? Which we're going to be talking a lot more about in our next episode, but that comes back down to, you know, sales, systems, services.
And the fourth one we added.
Yeah, the fourth one we added, staffing, right?
Yes, it's so big. Like, I think that is one of the number one things that people keep talking about, like staff. And because when you do have the right people, these things are easier. Just like I was saying, like your mindset can your mind can actually focus on something else because you don't have to worry about these things because you have the right people there.
I like one of the quotes my mentor said was, he's like, you're just one hire away from having all the growth you could ever want.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah. And that's kind of shown to be true. Like, you know, in our experience, you know, bringing on the right people can really just kind of help, you know, catapult your business to that next level.
Makes a huge difference.
So, yeah. Well, stay tuned for that next episode because we're going to be diving into this a little bit more.
Yeah. So just to finalize here, like some of the big things that I got from this episode and what I would love for you guys to get out of this episode is what can you do less of so you can do more on? How to really make that difference between like working in your business versus working on it, and how... And what are your goals? How can you set your priorities and making sure that sales is king here, right? Booking more appointments to getting more people to say yes to treatment.
Definitely. So thank you everybody for tuning in. We will see you all next time. Have an awesome week. See you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.